Episode 79. Before the dozen or so disoriented players could even collect themselves, they spotted the dozen or so members of Tyrannical Ambition, moving furtively from tree to tree. The Tyrannical Ambition players surged past them, their figures flickering in and out of sight. Those who passed close by even took the opportunity to get in a cheap shot, tossing a grenade or two. They'd toss a grenade, cast a spell or something similar, then waste no time continuing their pursuit of the Goblin Merchant. After all, the Goblin Merchant was the real reason everyone had gathered here. Over at Herb Hall, the dozen or so players who'd just been knocked sprawling were feeling pretty frustrated as they tried to pull themselves together. Right then, the Wind Howl Guild forces came roaring in.
Trash. Absolute trash.
Blue River mercilessly berated his rivals. Then, leading his crew, he seized the moment to get in a few cheap shots. A couple of sword slashes here, a few spells there. The poor members of Herb Garden were tossed around back and forth. The unluckiest ones, who got picked off the most, simply bit the dust. Qi Ying was absolutely livid. Not only had they failed to stop the boss, but they'd been robbed blind in the chaos. He immediately sent a message to Blue River.
You absolute beasts.
You're all useless. You couldn't even stop him.
Damn, you guys got here half a day earlier than me and you're still just as useless.
Same to you.
Then, both sides fell into a heavy silence, a profound sense of foreboding weighing on them. The Goblin Merchant up ahead was taking heavier and heavier fire. Lord Grimm's reinforcements were clearly arriving. Every time Blue River and his team closed in, they were deftly evaded by Tyrannical Ambition's agile OT. The Goblin Merchant's movements were completely erratic, leaving everyone thoroughly frustrated. Blue River had been hoping Herb Garden's interception would let them pick up an easy win. Who knew Herb Garden would be so useless? Left with no choice, he had to fall back on his original plan.
Pair up. Find and take out the Tyrannical Ambition players.
The Goblin Merchant was impossible to pin down. They could land the occasional hit, but that just meant they were helping Tyrannical Ambition rack up damage. Without securing aggro, they could never take the initiative. If we waste any more time, Tyrannical Ambition's damage output will be enough. At that point, whoever kills the boss kills it. As long as their team is still here, the claim is already theirs. The only way to take it is to drive them all off, or wipe them out. So, snatching a boss is actually pretty tough. If you're too late, there's no way to catch up on damage output. That leaves only one path: killing the players to hijack the boss. That makes the PK a lot harder, because player skill levels are always pretty close. Killing people is always harder than killing monsters, and the fallout is endless. For Blue Brook Guild, there's no need to worry about future consequences. When it comes to a direct rival like Tyrannical Ambition, a boss fight turning into a PK is just business as usual. But for them, the more critical point was that Tyrannical Ambition's strength was completely on par with their own. So even with this move, the odds of success were still 50-50. But no matter what, it was better than just standing there and watching. Blue Brook Guild had over 20 players on the field by now, split into more than a dozen two-man teams. They fanned out widely through the forest, and the moment they spotted a Tyrannical Ambition player, they immediately rushed over. The Goblin Merchant was no longer the sole focus. Every member of Tyrannical Ambition was now a target. The two-player teams that spotted one would carefully move in to close the distance. But chasing someone down isn't easy. Everyone's level and gear are about the same, so their movement speed and stamina are too. In the end, it just becomes a stalemate. As Blue Brook Guild gave chase, Thunderbolt Flash suddenly spoke up in the party channel.
Hey, where did the Goblin Merchant go? I can't see it anymore.
That single remark snapped everyone out of their focus. They'd all been fixated on the immediate target, forgetting the ultimate goal that lay beyond it. Everyone took a closer look, and only then did they realize that even those who could still see the Goblin Merchant were now a great distance away.
Let's give up on this boss.
The members of Blue Brook Guild fell silent. Such a scene was truly rare for a top-tier guild like theirs. That feeling of despair halfway through a fight, it's something you usually only get when you're clearing a brand new dungeon or facing a completely unknown boss. But now, it was just a Goblin Merchant, a minor boss everyone had killed countless times. Their opponents were the all-too-familiar Tyrannical Ambition Guild. Yet, just because Lord Grimm had joined their ranks, the fight suddenly felt like a fresh clearing attempt, and they were forced to give up almost immediately.
Hey, why'd you stop chasing?
At that moment, a message came in from Che Qianzi.
It's yours.
What are you trying to pull?
You'll find out when you catch up.
Since they had just switched from intercepting the front to chasing from behind, Poplarcar and his crew hadn't yet fully witnessed the sheer insanity of Tyrannical Ambition's OT-based method for controlling the Goblin Merchant's movement during combat. Their morale was still sky high, but this only lasted a moment. After chasing for a while, Herb Garden was also completely stunned by this OT-based kiting tactic. No matter how they tried, left or right, they couldn't crack it. Che Qianzi announced heavily,
Form up in pairs. We're taking out Tyrannical Ambition's people.
The Blue Brook Guild members had already given up, but they still tagged along, just to watch the show. Watching Herb Garden scatter to chase down Tyrannical Ambition's players in the exact same way, they suddenly felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The crowd was full of such voices. 5 minutes later, a message from Che Qianzi arrived for Blue River.
Damn it, just spit it out.
Clearly, they'd realized their tactics had been a joke all along.
I told you, would you have believed me?
Che Qianzi fell silent for a long moment before replying, his voice heavy.
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
So what now? You guys giving up? I'm not so sure about that.
Oh, come on.
Blue River said helplessly. As the Herb Hall Guild members gathered themselves back up, looking rather sheepish, the Blue Brook Guild wasn't far off. What was truly distant was the Goblin Merchant. The other assorted guilds and players who had any sense could see that Herb Hall and Blue Brook had been thoroughly outplayed. Those two top-tier guilds were organized and skilled, and they still came up empty-handed. What chance do these second-rate guilds and other stragglers have of pulling off anything? At this moment, if everyone could unite, there might still be hope. But would anyone step up to lead? Plantigo Seed was itching to make a move. He sidled up to Blue River and spoke directly.
If we can't get the kill, we can't let Tyrannical Ambition take the credit either. Get everyone organized. I don't care who gets the first clear. Just make sure it's not under the name of Tyrannical Ambition.
It's just a Goblin Merchant. Is all this fuss really necessary?
Che Qianzi had to admit, it really wasn't that interesting. This is just the smallest of the wild boss spawns. Even if Tyrannical Ambition secured it, it doesn't prove much. The road ahead is still very long.
I just can't let it go.
Then go ahead. I'm not stopping you.
Screw that. Why would I go do all that work by myself for so little payoff?